It's hard to tell what's going on with Candace Owens because we are in late stage capitalism, okay, where our entire world financial system is pretty much killing us all, okay, and killing the world. And nobody wants to acknowledge this. Everybody is just seeking to expand the biggest piece of the pie they can, so they're immune to the merciless effects of this late stage capitalism. And so, like, conspiracy theories are rampant because now everybody has access to all the information. So it's like interpretation, right? Misinformation is rampant. So, like, now the way a lot of people are building communities are based around conspiracy theories of, like, they, okay? And we all do this. Even the people I like, we are all, like, picking even people on our own side that are, like, part of the bad team. And then we're assuming that they're using their power in nefarious ways to prevent us from getting the things we want. And this is all, everybody is doing this. I try to not do this. I try to, like, not have a ubiquitous they. I try really hard. I'm like realizing that there's levers of power and everybody's trying to get hands on power, but I don't want to necessarily demonize, you know, any part of the Democratic Party specifically. I don't want to necessarily demonize, you know what I mean? I try. I'm not perfect though. I mean, we all do it, but here's what's hard, guys, is people want that. Okay? Like, people want it. People want to, anything that's got conspiracy theory like teeth, people want to get into that drama. That's like the new thing, guys. If you create some sort of conspiracy, some they that we have to topple but can't, everybody's feeding on that. It is like content creators are almost encouraged to go down the conspiracy pipelines because the public are so traumatized from the pandemic and end stage capitalism that they're vulnerable to it.
I want to start by saying that the way that I feel, the way that I think a lot of you feel, the vibes that are surrounding us right now is that the deep state is in some sort of a panic, right?
Dude, the deep state is in some sort of a panic. Here we go, guys. The deep state, that undefined thing.
We've acknowledged that over and over again on the show. Something doesn't feel quite right. It feels almost like we are at the beginning of the end of a long satanic run. That's why, just so you guys know, despite the obviously sobering reality that the world is run by these people, I'm pretty optimistic every day. I can't explain it. I don't know why. Things are obviously coming apart, but like things have to come apart before they can be put back together. And they're just getting sloppy. And if I could put it into a sentence, I would say that it's almost as if our awareness is the threat, right? Awareness, just our being conscious of what they are doing, somehow spells their doom, which is bringing me to wanting to discuss today, as I promised you, the CIA's Looking Glass Project. Now,
see, again, guys, it goes back to, remember what we talked about in the very beginning of this, where we talked about religion, we talked about the nomadic tribes, and we talked about how there wasn't real nationalism. But, like, guys, I think the tribalism around, like, deep state theories and conspiracy theories is a result of this end stage capitalism where people are creating their own tribal factions. Because what a deep state is that could be anybody. That can be members of both political parties. It can be members of your own community once they start disagreeing with you. And by putting it as satanic, they're attaching some religious significance. So now your faith is involved, and now you have the power of God on your side to be a good fighter. But, like, there's no definition. And they don't have to tell me what it is, because it is anything that they deem, you know, confrontational, or anything that they deem like, we want to slow you down here, or you're not on our team, right? And so these deep states allow communities to gather with a common enemy that can explain a whole manner of their personal problems and anything unexplained, right? because religion started the unexplained. The wind, the sun, the rain, the snow, that was all God's. And then we had science, and then religion kind of became on the back burner. And now that there's religion and science, now the new religion is like deep stating. Ooh, the deep state, the cabal, right? The globalist cabal, the right? But it's never defined. Like if we said, Candace, give me a list of 20 members of the deep state, I don't think she'd do that. I don't think they want to define it because it's more powerful of a monetizing force, and it's more powerful as a manipulating force when we don't define it. Okay, that's the, and usually it comes around to money. It comes around to how, like, making money. Okay, the cabal is caballing.
We briefly touched upon this at the end of last episode. Obviously, I'm a conspiracy girly, and I'm thrilled that we get to dive a little bit deeper on this topic for those of you that don't know. The first thing that I want to remind you guys is exactly what I said at the top of the show. It is an absolute fact that Charlie Kirk thought that he was a time traveler. He told me he was a time traveler repeatedly. I showed you guys that text message exchange. I said to him in response that I didn't feel the same way and that I thought I was from another planet, that I was an alien my entire life. Just do not get it here. This planet is ghetto. That's how I feel. I don't understand it. The rules don't make sense. I think that's also why I like cats so much. I feel that they can relate to that. They think...
Dude, what are we doing? Candace is like, I'm an alien. The rules here don't make sense. It's confirmed because I like cats, which now everyone in her audience who really likes cats is like, I don't really like rules either. Maybe I'm an alien as well. And Charlie's a time traveler. Like, dude, we're watching the degeneration of what's going on here, guys. This is a major part of an American political movement. This is insane.
Humanity is ghetto. They don't want to be around us. They don't like us. They know it's ghetto.
The problem is, though, guys, is that the people who watch her are like buying into this shit. If you aren't addressing it, the people in the audience are consuming it and believing it. You can't just ignore Andrew Tate. You have to actively, vocally refute him. Otherwise, if you ignore him, a bunch of young boys are going to believe him, and they're not getting any counter information. You can't just ignore anti-humanity or ignore racism. You can't just not be racist. You have to be actively anti-racist. You can't just be I'm not a misogynist. You have to be anti-misogynist. Okay? You can't just ignore these like inhumane sort of influencers and shit. You have to actively rebel against them. Okay? Otherwise, people will buy in. And like, dude, there are people watching her. Look at her. She's getting millions of views on this shit. People are buying into this shit, man.
It's ghetto here, right?
Young people are.
Well, another bizarre fact is that back when Charlie and I were running around, we met in 2017, top of 2018. So I would say, obviously, Turning Point was an organization, but it wasn't the organization. It wasn't this behemoth of an organization that it became. No, he had no real degree of fame. I think that's fair. But he was required to have security on him at all times. That was orchestrated. His security, Schaefer Security, was orchestrated by Bill Montgomery. He has since passed, the late Bill Montgomery, and he was from the military. He founded Turning Point USA with Charlie.
Bill Montgomery is the guy who founded Turning Point USA. Okay, Charlie Kirk was the son of a wealthy Republican donor who knew Bill Montgomery. So Charlie Kirk was like the reality TV star, right? He was like the Donald Trump of the Heritage Foundation called Bill Montgomery. Let's not forget that Charlie Kirk didn't create TPUSA. Bill Montgomery and Foster Friess did. Okay, and Charlie Kirk was just the reality star that went and sold their monster to young men. Okay, that's what Charlie Kirk was. He was like the translator and the recruiter of this thing. Okay, this is all about conversion of young people to evangelical Christianity. That's really at the root of this. They are trying to convert young people to Christianity because you rebel less. You don't protest. You don't fight the system. If you are a Christian, you get pious and just, take what's given to you and you fucking taste the pain. Okay? They want people to be religious, like deeply religious believers, because they are easy to control, guys.
To go to West Point, and then instead started Turning Point USA when he was 18 years old. Thinking about that, the security, him texting saying, I'm not allowed to go anywhere, I feel so important, I think was the exact message. That, to me, is objectively weird in retrospect. Wasn't weird at the time, it's weird now. And it makes me think that Charlie may have been marked since he was a child. We've discussed these GATE programs that they have in school. And I just think on the basis of what he told me, that when he was really young, they wanted to drug him, but his mother said no, and he was really grateful for that. And instead, they decided that they could send him to this X-Men school. That's the best way I can describe it. I would certainly, by the way, for you internet sleuths, I'd like to find out which school Charlie had to attend. So he was pulled out of the regular school he was attending, and he had to go to some special school for the gifted, like he was an X-Man. And I am of the opinion, it's an opinion, I'm allowed to have it, obviously not a fact, but I am of the opinion, based on the discussions I had with him, that he's been monitored since.
Dude.
His test scores, whatever the score, every test they probably did on him, he was off the charts, and they wanted to make sure that he was being watched. That's my theory.
Dude, look at what she is doing, guys. She is saying that Charlie Kirk was some sort of savant, like boy genius. This is like Stranger Things kind of things. This guy is special powers, incredibly genius, and so much so that they tried to medicate him. No, we're going to put him in a special school where now the deep state is monitoring his growth as he's being groomed to be this political leader. This is some crazy shit she's going. Dude, she is crazy. She is like out there, boss. You know what I'm saying? She is like out there. You think you're in the Twilight Zone? It feels like it, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Like, doesn't it feel like big time Twilight Zone-y?